Welcome to Sermons from the Woodshop, July 21st, 2024. Our reading comes from Mark, and I have to back up to it, so just hang on just a second. It's a funny reading because it goes Mark 63 to 34, and then 53 to 56, leaving out 35 to 52. I'll explain in a little bit. The apostles gathered around Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. He said to them, "Come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest for a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in the boat to a deserted place by themselves. Now many saw them going and recognized them, and they hurried there on foot from all the towns and arrived ahead of them. As he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. Now we jump to 6:53. In the meantime, Jesus feeds the people and then leaves to pray. When they had crossed over, they came to a land at Gennesaret and moored the boat. When they got out of the boat, people at once recognized him and rushed about that whole region and began to bring the sick on mats to wherever they heard he was. And wherever he went, into villages or cities or farms, they laid the sick in the marketplaces and begged him that they might touch even the fringe of his cloak, and all who touched it were healed. It is the summertime, and I don't know what the temperature is like where you're living, but in eastern Washington, it's anywhere from 100 to 106 degrees. And this is what we consider to be vacation time in the summer. And I'm sure that that's true for anyone who has school-aged children. Summers become a time for vacations and going places and doing things that you don't have time during the school year to do. What's interesting in the readings tonight is it talks about Jesus and his disciples wanting to get away and to disconnect from all the crowds. And if you read this reading without understanding what's going on between those chapters from 35 to 52, then you see this kind of frenetic pace that Jesus has to set. So in this process, they have the time when Jesus feeds the people, and then he leaves to go and pray. And that's the part that's missing, is the part I would like to address. We live in a world that is become even more intense with the onset of technology than ever before. In the past, there wasn't the constant attention needed to live in this world. But think about the realities. You wake up, you have email to check, you may have blogs and feeds and news feeds to read. There are so many things you can do on your cell phone and on your computer that simply did not exist when computers first came out. I remember my first experience with computers was simply to do word processing. There was no internet at that time. There was no other distractions other than composing things on my computer. Normally for the parish that I was trying to coordinate things with, and I just put things on paper, and everything I did was something that needed to be printed and handed out. Fast forward about, let's say, 10 years later, then the internet became a part of our lives. For many of us, it started with a community bulletin board where people posted different things. And many websites are still kind of a community bulletin board. Um, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram are all places where people post things and people can see them and notice them or pay attention to them. They're much more sophisticated now than they used to be. I remember when the movie Star Wars came out, and it was fascinating that the special effects were amazing, and we had never seen anything like them before. And one of the things that fascinated me was when the Star Wars crew had to go into hyperspace. And so they would hit the button and they would shoot into the stars. Um, Hang on a minute, I'm going to turn off my scanner. It's been very busy tonight. It's a Saturday night, and um, pray for all those that are calling for ambulances, and hopefully no fires or traffic accidents tonight. Back to the internet and back to the distractions in our lives, which I just gave you a clear example of another one. When Star Wars came out and we had that hyperspace thing and you shoot off into the stars and then you come out on the other side of that in super fast motion, that's kind of a good analogy of what's happening to us today. We have a constant bombardment of information that's coming in all the time. And the problem is that you don't have time to sort all that information. It just keeps coming at you. There's no chance for a reflective process. Um, a friend of mine said something the other day that kind of caught my attention. He said that in today's world, things come at you so fast you don't have a chance to evaluate what is coming at you. And so he said, even in politics, where something could be said and you would have days to think about it, you don't have that opportunity. You don't have a you don't have a time to examine or reflect on what a politician says, because by the time you listen to what's coming, there's already more around it. During the Republican National Convention, if you didn't catch a speech, you could watch it on YouTube. At the same time, if you watched it on a cable news program, then you not only got the speeches, you got immediate commentary right after it. You didn't have a chance to form your own opinion or ask yourself questions about a reflective process to those speeches. And that will be true with the Democratic Convention as well. The world is coming at us at a high rate of speed. Jesus had the same problem. Everywhere he went, people recognized him. He was a healer. This is a time when people got sick. They didn't get well. They didn't have penicillin. They didn't have drugs that took away common illnesses. The life expectancy of an adult male at the time of Jesus was 25 years. So if Jesus lived into his 30s and maybe even possibly near 40, he would have been considered an elder and an older person in his community. So we need to do exactly what Jesus does in this hesitation in the reading that's not there. We need to disconnect and take time to reflect and get away from the constant bombardment of information coming into our lives. This is a good time to think about your daily life and ask yourself the question, do you take time to sit on your porch or on your patio and just take a breath and think about your life and think about the world around you and think about what's happening, and to be able to reflect and digest all of the information that's coming at you? Or do you get hung up and just keep it coming and keep it coming? We have information overload. We have sensory overload. We have all kinds of things that are constantly demanding our attention. And the same is true for Jesus Christ. He and his disciples go away to find a place to rest, and they get a little bit of time away, but by the time they make sure, the next day people have already gathered and in fact have beat them to their destination and are awaiting them. Think about that in your life. If you didn't have time to just rest and disconnect from the world, you will suffer not so much an emotional burnout, but an information burnout, a brain overload. Too much information, not enough time to sort it. And so, and then what the brain does when you sleep is it tries to sort out all of the things that happen in your day. And even the brain probably needs more time to do that than in the past. So my advice to you, and the point of this sermon, is to take time away from screens, away from your cell phone, away from all the feeds that go in, and just sit alone and take time to think about the life that you're going, what's going on in your life, what's going on that's important in the world. Form your own opinions, form your own conclusions about things, and reaffirm what are your core beliefs, what are your standby things that guide you, and have maybe we lost track of those things because of this input that's coming at us all the time. If kindness and honesty and fairness and respect are trademarks of your Christian belief, are you able to reflect on the world around you and ask the questions, are those things happening? Or do you just have too much coming in and you feel a little bit disconnected, not just from the overwhelming part of the world, but disconnected from your own self and your own personhood and what you believe? Take time. Do what Jesus and the disciples do, but it's not included in this reading today. They disconnect. They go away. Jesus takes time to go up on the mountain and pray and be alone. The disciples have a chance to decompress. They've just come back from teaching and working in villages. They've now gathered back, and people recognize them and they're coming. But before they let the crush of everything come in on them, they take time to go away, reflect, and pray. Let's do the same. I ask you to continue to pray for peace in our world. I ask you to pray for wisdom as you choose. It's time for primaries to occur, and there's lots of people running for lots of offices. And pray that wisdom will guide you as you fill in your little blanks on ballots, as you listen to speeches, as you watch conventions. Let wisdom be your guide, and take time to reflect on the processes around you. I once had a very good coach who said that there's two things people aren't supposed to talk about: religion and politics. And he said they're the two most important things you can talk about. Politics affects the two most important things you can talk about are politics and religion. Politics affects your daily life, and religion affects your eternity. So they're worth talking about, and always talking about in respectful terms for different points of view. I ask you to pray for those who have asked you to pray for them, who need prayers. Ask you to pray for those who have not asked for our prayers but do need our prayers. And to pray for those that no one is praying for, who have been disconnected or disenfranchised by society. Let's gather all of our prayers and all of our best intentions together and pray in the words that Jesus taught us in that reflective and beautiful prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. God bless you in this month of July. I hope you have a chance to disconnect from all of it and take some time to be reflective. I have the good fortune of going to a place where cell phones don't work, and so I can disconnect from my cell phone. I have the opportunity to set it down and go away from it. And in that place there's no television either. So all of it is good. I wish you the chance to take it. Maybe even say, on this day each week for 10 hours, I'm not going to have anything to do with anything that involves a screen, and see how that affects your life. God bless you, and God bless your families. I hope you get some time for some R&R and recreation and recreation. God bless you and your families. Go with God. Amen.